Sir,
Yeah. Please
sir,
go ahead.
sir, would you please repeat the last bit? We couldn't hear anything.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir. Sorry, your voice was breaking up.
What was I saying? I don't remember. Uh, I mean, I was probably just saying that. Uh, well, we're just talking about the schedule, and thereafter, I didn't say anything serious. Okay. Okay, so we're beginning our discussion on IR. Couple of slides I slightly edited, so let me go through from the beginning again. This IR is uh, is actually a category of free space optical communication. Uh, in the case of optical fiber, we use light or optical method for communication, but that's not free space communication. Definitely, it's guided wave. Uh, so there is also the possibility of free space optical communication, or FSO, and IR is actually the practical type of FSO. Anyhow, if you can use light to transfer information, it is FSO in open space. However, basically IR is the only type that is used as the free space optical method for communication. Okay, so the common applications are remote controls. Okay, this is the most common application today. The internet connection is not very stable, right? Do you hear me? Do you hear me? I'm sorry, but I got disconnected. Do you hear me now? You do?
Yes, sir. We couldn't
Okay.
hear you, sir, before.
Okay, but it got disrupted. Okay. So I was just saying that IR is actually the practical type of method for free space optical communication, or FSO. Okay. And we know that IRDA controls, and this slides we also covered before. For LEDs, the practical availability is in the range of 800 to 1000 nanometer wavelength. And especially with good power level, the range is 850 through 950. So with LEDs, that is the range of operation. And let me tell you, although you can easily convert between frequency and wavelength, in optical range, people more commonly use the wavelength when they look at operation. In radio communication, you know that we work with frequencies, but here people more commonly work with wavelength. Sometimes they also use the frequencies. And this is why in fiber optic communication, people use wavelength division multiplexing, WDM, as opposed to frequency division multiplexing. Basically, it's the same thing, but in normal radio range, we use, I mean, when we multiplex in frequencies. We allocate different chunks of frequency to different users or different applications, then it is frequency division multiplexing. But in the optical range, people work with wavelength and divide also the whole range in wavelength figures. So they call it WDM, wavelength division multiplexing. For laser, we discussed that it is more for LED. It is not that narrow. The transmission, the transmission beam is always narrow with optical, with infrared communication, but it is little wider in the case of LEDs compared to laser. In the case of laser, it is even narrower, very narrow beam. Okay. So for LED, as we use as we have found in the case of remote control, even it is not exactly towards your receiver. Do you hear me or you don't? Do you hear me? Hello, do you hear me?
It seems clear right now, sir.
Asin, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can hear you, sir. Right now, I can hear you, sir. Yes.
Okay. Okay. For LEDs, I was saying that the practical operating frequency range is 850 through 950, and 950 nanometers, and this is the wavelength. Okay, so in the optical range, people more commonly work with wavelength as opposed to frequency, although you can easily convert between frequency and wavelength. This is why in optical range, people often use WDM, wavelength division multiplexing, which is just the frequency division multiplexing, but you are uh, taking the figures in wavelength, not in frequency. For laser, you have even narrower beam for radiation, and you can cover little higher power level you have, so you can cover little longer range. And now we will, and you see that I mean, for laser, it is always point-to-point communication. With LED, it is I mean, sometimes you can have multiple receivers, because the transmission radiation beam is not that narrow. It's a little wider compared to laser. So it is possible to have multiple receivers from your, I mean, covering by the same transmitter, covered by the same transmitter, and it is possible to have wireless, I mean, communication within wireless LAN. Okay. But for laser, it's actually always point-to-point communication because of the very narrow radiation beam, and it can be used between buildings, and then the transceivers are placed at the rooftops. Okay? So you need to make sure that there is an unobstructed line of sight link. Okay, and transceivers are facing to each other properly. You need to have perfect alignment, then it can work. Okay. And it can also be sensitive to fog and other atmospheric conditions. So the bottom line is not is that it is not a great solution. The maximum data rate is limited to 16 Mbps. Now we'll discuss the advantages and disadvantages of IR communication. It is cheap. By transceiver, I mean a single device is made with both transmission and reception capabilities, and then it is called transceiver. Now, in the case of IR, the transceivers are cheap and they are light in weight. They are very easy to manufacture. Okay, very easily the IR devices are manufactured, and you don't need any license from the government for its operation. So there is no license issue here. For the use of light, like if you use your torchlight, okay, when you go out in the dark, you use your torchlight. Definitely, you don't need any license, right? So when you are using light, you just transmit light from anywhere. It doesn't require any government license. So IR also doesn't require. And you have a line of sight communication and short range. That's basically a disadvantage, but it can also ensure that there is no interference between two nearby communication setups. Okay, you have just point-to-point or one-to-one communication. That's the primary use of IR communication. So in another room of the same house, there can be another TV and another remote control, but there won't be any interference. When you are using two remote control systems in two different rooms, there is no possibility of interference because both are using line of sight communication over a short range. Okay, so it doesn't penetrate through the wall. So the whole communication, whole radiation beam is restricted within this short space. Okay, so there is no interference, or your communication is not intercepted by another communication. Thus, there is no possibility of eavesdropping. Nobody can hear you probably. And normally, the data is not encrypted. Okay. Additional security measure is not required, like for in mobile communication or any other wireless communication. You need to, not for radio broadcast, there is no requirement of encryption there because it is made available for everybody. It is for public use. But when two people communicate with each other, you need to encrypt your data for wireless communication. You are sending, launching your information in the air, and if you want to make sure, so I mean, for sure, when you're talking to your wife, you don't want that somebody else over here. Okay, so for mobile communication, the data is always encrypted. I mean, people can of course receive the signal, catch the signal using antenna, but they cannot retrieve the information. It is all encrypted. So this type of encryption is not used. It requires additional processing in the application layer. So, but it is not used in IR communication because you have actually the type of application. The type of application is already a little different. Like you use it for remote control purpose. So the requirement of security is not usually not severe. Okay. And so that, I mean, that's also true on one side. On the other side, as I said, that there is usually no interception. Okay, so the possibility of eavesdropping is already low. Okay. So this extra security measure is not required. And last of all, the power requirement is very low. So the entire transceiver you can operate using non-rechargeable batteries, or you can use rechargeable batteries, however you like. So small batteries are good enough. The batteries can last for several months. Okay, you can use it because of very low power requirement. So for a small and portable equipment, okay, you can use this IR communication. These are the advantages. Now let's look at the disadvantages. First of all, it must have a line of sight unobstructed link. Okay, you need to make sure, otherwise it won't function. The transmission range is short. Okay, typically 10 meters at the maximum. Of course, with laser it can go up to 2.4 kilometers. It's about, I mean, the limit I have put here is for lead. Okay, when you use lead, well, I will correct it. I mean, I'll put this 10 meters range. I'll move it to the page of lead. Okay, I'll move that in here. The range is short, but that but the length depends on the use of lead or laser. Okay, and it cannot penetrate walls or solid stuff. So you cannot reach anywhere. Okay, I mean, the radio signal can pervade throughout the buildings, but IR communication cannot. And it can also be affected by atmospheric conditions like smoke, fog, dust, sunlight. Okay. And IR transmitters can interfere with one another if you have them at the same place. Okay, if you have two IR transmitters at the same place, then there can be interference. Well, so we can see that the communication is possible only within some limited conditions, otherwise it is not. So this is why the popularity has been lost. It was pretty popular in these 2 decades, in 1990s and in early 2000s. But thereafter, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth became more, were found more advantageous. So IR was replaced by, in most applications, it was replaced by Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. Like before 2000, keyboards or mice, okay, used to be connected sometimes with IR. Okay, when people needed them wirelessly, functioning wirelessly. But later, we know that these days they all are available primarily with Bluetooth. Okay. IR applications for this type of users are still there, okay, but very limited. And when you find any dongle with IR communication, then you'll see that it is written on the dongle IR. Okay. Anyway, so the bottom line is that IR has IR communication is also wireless communication, but its use cases are very limited. Okay, and the operation within 300 gigahertz is getting more and more popular. Their popularity was always there, but it is mostly taking up the applications of wireless communication. So that we are completing our course content for wireless communication.
Yeah, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, your voice broke, sir. Sir, this was the line I wanted to hear, but your voice entirely broke, sir. Can you repeat, sir, once more?
Okay. Which part should I repeat? The last few lines or?
The last line, sir.
That's
যে
the last
সব শেষ হয়ে গেছে, স্যার। হ্যাঁ, এটা
Oh,
বিরক্ত যাচ্ছে আমার কান দিয়ে, স্যার।
okay. It's just I was just saying that we are completing our lectures or whatever you want to cover in this course. So now, I mean, it's the last class, and we are meeting here formally for this course for the last time. If there is anybody who I take only optional courses at IUT. All of my courses are optional, so we may meet again or we may not. Okay. And so I mean, sometimes I say that I'm an optional teacher at IUT. Okay. Anyway, so if even if you don't meet, I know how we can still remember in future. You know how I can make sure that you don't forget me. You know what is the easiest way to do that?
Sir,
make sure that you
giving
don't
all of
forget.
us A plus, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Giving us good grades, sir.
I don't.
Is the other way around. If I give you very poor grade, you won't forget me in your whole life. That is the reality.
All of us A plus.
Yeah.
Won't forget you in whole life.
Sir, there is two sides of the story, sir. Anyone can be a villain or anyone can be a hero.
Sir,
Sir, the choice is
you
yours.
will emerge as a hero.
Anyway, so
Sir, our condition is very poor, so please be considerate, sir. in the-
স্যার
in
মানে
making the question,
কন্ডিশন
sir.
অ্যাজ ইন লাইক স্যার পড়ালেখার কন্ডিশন তো বাইরে রাখেন স্যার। ইটস লাইক স্যার মানে ওই যে ক্রিকেট পিচের উপরে স্যার অনেক বড় একটা রোলার দিয়ে ওটাকে চ্যাপটা করে না স্যার, আমাদের অবস্থা হচ্ছে ওইটা স্যার। এখন
well,
মানে
yeah, actually I to some extent understand. It's
Yes, sir.
I was probably discussing one day that when you take online classes and you're at home, it may look like that you are in a better condition for your preparation for academic activities, but it is just the other way around. Okay,
so
it is
the
just the
amount
other
of
way around.
distraction, sir, like
Yeah.
if there were variables, sir, you could use all the Greek alphabets and the English alphabets, capital ones and small ones, you'd still not be able to complete them all. There are so many distractions, sir. It's
Right.
like every passing second is a distraction. So sir,
Yeah.
মানে nobody considers it and it's not possible to consider it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it is there, sir. So it just ruins everything about the education that we have known for all our lives.
Right. It's I mean, it's too stressful, definitely. But you know, we can't go back to our normal education method now. There is no way to do that. So we
Yes,
just
sir.
have to accept it anyhow. And also, we cannot sacrifice the content, the amount of course content, right? We should cover everything that you
Yes,
need to
sir.
know. Okay,
Yes, sir.
everything that you need to know should be covered in the coursework. You shouldn't learn less. Okay, yesterday
Yes,
we
sir.
had a meeting at our department, and I mean, it looked like that teachers were satisfied in terms of what they could impart, what they could deliver to the students. Okay, so it is it's although we are taking the classes online, but at least at our university at IUT, probably in most courses we have been able to deliver almost as much as we could do in our face-to-face classes. Okay, probably, I mean, it is no less, it is no less than. So it is after graduation, if someone says that you have gone through I mean online classes, okay, I mean, you can probably defend him that actually you haven't learned anything less. Okay,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I in my course in my courses, okay, in this online method, I have been covering everything. that I used to cover in face-to-face classes. So inshallah, you were inshallah that is also happening in other courses. Okay,
Yes, sir.
now in I once again apologize for my delay in publishing the grades, and
No problem, sir. It's fine, sir.
before your examinations begin, okay,
Yes, sir.
it would be my responsibility to publish all of your grades, all of the pending grades. Inshallah, I'll try my best to publish before your examinations begin. And secondly, in the questions, we are with this new OBE based method, we are going to indicate what course objectives we are addressing in a question. Okay, so you'll find that next to the question, I'll write down CO1, CO2, CO3, something I'll write down. That actually you don't have to understand very well, but let me just tell you what it indicates. I shared a course outline. In the course outline, there were some course objectives. Okay, part of our documentation for OBE, we now have to do that. And when we submit the questions, we also, from now on, we'll have to indicate which question relates to which CO. Okay. From your end, you don't have to understand for your exam performance. Okay, but from my end, I have to do that to fulfill the requirement of OBE. Okay, so if you are interested, you can go back to the course outline and check which CO indicates what purpose of the course. Okay, CO1, maybe explanation of something, CO2, maybe calculating whatever. Okay, so they will also relate to some objectives of our whole degree. Okay, these objectives are called program outcomes, POs. So COs are also connected to some POs. So next to the question, I'll also indicate which POs it is connected to. Okay, so CO number, PO number, I'll indicate next to every question. But once again, I'm telling you, for your exam performance, you don't have to understand. You just focus on what the question, what the answer might be for that question. Okay. Well, the question style will be similar to what you had in the midterm exam. There will be a number of short questions, and you won't have to really, it will be definitely open book exam. You can access your lecture notes, any book, the video lectures, the recorded video lectures, or any online resources. You can even go online and check anything and write down. Okay, so all of these things are permissible in the exam, but make sure you don't get misled when you search online. Okay, anyway, so there will be a number of short questions. Some of the questions may look like problems. Mostly we discuss informative stuff. Okay, so I mean, problem oriented content we did not cover much. So only a few things like the image frequency calculation for superheated and principal. So a little, I mean, a little bit, I mean, problem oriented stuff we may have covered. So from there, I can, I may give you small problems. Okay. So basically, it will be short questions or small problems or some questions which may look like which may have a flavor of problems. Okay. So with this type of questions, it will take I think almost 1.5 hours. Okay, like before the whole period, maybe 1.5 hours, including your scanning and uploading. So the number of questions, you know, like before will be actually quite large. Okay, now,
Is there
yeah, please.
any possibility, sir, like you could, like, only for the exam purpose, like যাতে করে
Yeah.
এক্সামের জন্য না পড়তে হয়, এমনি জানার জন্য পড়ি, এরকম is there any topic that is like that you can tell us, like you know this to learn but will not be very important for the exam preparation, so that exam এর আগের দিন ওটা আমি না মানে টাইম না দিই ওখানে?
Well, everything we have covered in this course is included in the syllabus. Okay, so
Okay,
I don't
sir.
think
Yes,
there
sir.
is anything that is beyond. If there is anything that I am not including in the syllabus, that I have mentioned that already. That this part
Okay,
I'm
okay.
explicitly I mentioned. Okay.
Yes, sir.
What else? And I mean, you can ask me more about the midterm exam or anything related to our
yes,
course.
sir. Did you check our copy, sir? How did we do, sir? How did we do, sir, in the midterm?
I'm
How
sorry,
was our results, sir, in the
I'm
midterm?
sorry, I haven't even checked.
Oh,
I'll
that's
do it
awesome,
before
sir.
your examinations
Yes, sir.
begin. I'll check and I'll publish your
Okay,
grades,
okay. Yes, sir.
but I'm yet to check.
Okay,
Really.
okay, sir.
I'm
Okay,
really
sir.
sorry.
Okay, sir.
Uh,
No problem, sir. No problem, sir.
okay. Anyway, also let me tell you, if I find at the end of the assessment that I mean the overall performance is not good, then I will scale. That I do,
Thank you, sir.
and many other teachers also do that. Okay, we scale then.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
and what else? You can ask me more about anything related to our course, and if you don't, if you come up with a question later, of course you can contact me. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Using any communication method, you can contact me, and also if you find difficulties, I told it before too, if you find difficulties in understanding anything, I can explain it for you. Okay, you can call me and I'll explain it for you. Even at the late night, you can give me a call, I don't mind. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
স্যার
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
স্যার আপনি কি 26 তারিখ স্যার ল্যাব ফাইনালটা নিচ্ছেন?
Yeah, that is what we have planned today.
স্যার এটা কি একটু ডিলে করে স্যার 28 তারিখে করা যায়? কারণ স্যার আমাদের ভাইবা সহ এক্সামটা শেষ হবে স্যার 25 তারিখ স্যার।
Okay,
মানে খুব fast হয়ে যায়।
okay, I can make it 27. I'm already sort of scared taking it
Sir.
after the exam. So let's make it 27th. Okay.
ওকে স্যার।
Right after your viva. Okay, let me know when your viva finishes. Right after your viva, we'll have a short discussion on the, I mean, sort of review of our lab experiments. And thereafter, the exam will take on 27th.
স্যার আমার মনে হয় স্যার যদি একটা শর্ট ডিসকাশন হয় তাহলে আমার মনে হয় স্যার 28 এ নিলে ভালো হয় স্যার, কারণ স্যার 25 এ আপনার এক্সামের পর কিন্তু স্যার সবাই এক্সস্টেড থাকে স্যার। সো 26 এ যদি আমরা ডিসকাশনটা করি, আমরা একদিন একটা ভালো প্রিপারেশন নিয়ে তারপর স্যার 28 এ আমরা এক্সামটা দিতে পারি।
I think your viva may not go up to all the way up to 25th. Okay, let's see how it goes. It may finish by 24th. 24th is the Friday. 24th is the Friday, so I assume your viva will complete by then, and on 25th we may be able to have our discussion. Okay, so then you'll have 2 days more. Let's see how it goes.
আসলে স্যার প্রিভিয়াস এক্সপেরিয়েন্স অনুযায়ী স্যার মানে ভাইভাটা স্যার আপনার শেষ হতে হতে সন্ধ্যা রাত পর্যন্ত চলে যায় স্যার।
Right, but
ওই দিনের রাতটা কিন্তু স্যার আর পড়াশোনা করা যায় না।
But I believe, you see, that I mean, I believe it will finish by 24th. But let's see how it goes. We will be able to also communicate later. Okay, in the classroom, we'll be sharing our views. Okay. For now, the tentative date is 27th. The tentative date is 27th. Okay. I assume that on 24th, we'll be able to have our discussion. And 2 days after that, we can have our exam.
Okay, sir.
The earlier you finish, the earlier you can go out on excursion. All that, okay?
স্যার ওইগুলো আর হইছে স্যার, এখন আসলে স্যার সেমিস্টারটা পার হই স্যার, এটাই টার্গেট স্যার, বেঁচে থাকি এটাই টার্গেট স্যার, এখন আর কিছু নাই স্যার।
Okay. I see. Uh, anyway, any other questions?
নো স্যার, থ্যাংক ইউ
স্যার
স্যার।
একটা রিকোয়েস্ট
How did you feel?
ফাইনালে
Mhm.
স্যার ফাইনালে একটু ইজি কোশ্চেন করেন স্যার।
Well, let's see how it goes.
সবার রিকোয়েস্ট স্যার, তাসিন কি বলিস?
হ্যাঁ স্যার, আমি তো স্যার পারলে তো স্যার আমি পরীক্ষায়
Tasin is always in the favor of easy questions. You don't have to ask him.
স্যার আমি তো পারলে স্যার, আপনি এখন কোয়েশ্চেন দিয়ে দিলাম, ওটা নিয়ে নিতে রাজি।
Yeah,
মানে আমার
right.
আমার
No
কোনো
one
tension
is
নাই, স্যার।
favored with hard questions, sir. I think.
Yeah.
No one wants that.
If you need an opposite views, then you have to ask me, not your friend.
নো স্যার, থাক স্যার, আপনি আমাদেরটাই শোনান স্যার, কঠিন কোয়েশ্চেন করা লাগবে না স্যার।
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
What else?
Yes, sir. এটাই স্যার, থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার, it was a good course
Yes,
sir.
sir,
It was
Okay.
fun.
How did you? Yeah. Let
Just
me
the
tell you how.
circumstances just made it very worse. Yes sir, yes sir, বলুন স্যার।
Yeah. I mean, let me hear from you how you felt in this course.
It was fine.
Sir, the course was nice. The circumstances just made it worse, sir. বারবার বলছি স্যার, it's applicable for all courses, sir. It's like আমরা শিখতে আসছি, কিন্তু আসলে যে অবস্থায় পড়ে গেছি, যে কষ্টটা অনেক বেড়ে গেছে, so তৃপ্তিটা কমে গেছে, স্যার। মানে the best way to put it.
Right. Right.
Like
That's
you're not
true.
satisfied with the way you learned it or how you learned or what you learned, but you were interested to begin with. When at the beginning you were interested, but probably not how you planned it out at the end. That's applicable for every online courses we have taken so far.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Of
So,
course, it's I don't enjoy as much as I could in the face-to-face classes. Okay, that's all different.
Yes, sir.
When I can actually understand how much you are accepting, how much you can earn from your. I mean, when I look at your faces, okay.
yes, sir.
I mean, face-to-face interaction is a lot different.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes.
anyhow, we just have to live with it.
Yes, sir.
And I just hope that next year we'll be able to go back to face-to-face classes. Massive vaccination is
Inshallah,
going
sir.
on. There should
Yes,
be some
sir.
changes. However, most
Because,
likely,
the main
রিউমার স্যার অক্টোবরে স্যার ক্লাস খুলে দিতে পারে?
well, as far I'm not sure either, but I mean, I have some hints that in the next semester it can be a I mean, it can use a blended mode. Okay, some practical classes may be held in our campus, but other, I mean, theory classes will still be held online, and the practical classes which are possible will also be held in online. Okay, but some practical classes will be held. You'll have to go for them to the campus. So it will be sort of blended mode, most likely. Okay. We may have to, even if other universities began, we may wait for another semester, especially because, you know, the foreign students are not vaccinated. You know that? Do you know?
yes, sir. Yes,
The
sir. Yes, sir.
foreign students are mostly not vaccinated. So our
Okay.
And
campus
also,
is,
sir, many of them are not in our country. They have already left for their country.
yeah, that is actually better. If when they come back before air travel, they may get vaccinated. Okay. When we go back to our campus, everybody should be vaccinated. That is that should be the case. Okay. So the students who went back to their country will probably be safer. They will come back vaccinated. But students who are here already are not yet vaccinated, and I'm not sure if there has been any already, I mean, way out for them. Okay. So, but probably the administration is trying to get them vaccinated, but it may take a while. Okay, so I think it will take another semester. In the next year, we may be able to go back to face-to-face classes.
Inshallah, sir, because তাহলে offline হলে স্যার at least আমাদের side থেকে the students can put in more effort than they can right
Definitely,
now, sir.
definitely.
Okay, and that is the satisfaction, sir. It's like এই যে আপনার কাছে আর বলা লাগবে না স্যার ইজি কোশ্চেন হ্যাঁ প্রবাবলি তখনও বলবো বাট এখন সেন্টিমেন্ট আর একটু বেশি স্ট্রং স্যার কারণ অ্যাকচুয়ালি যে ওই পুরো এফর্টটা যে দিতে পারিনি স্যার মনে ভয়টা অনেক বেশি এখন সো দ্যাট ইজ হোয়াটস মানে ডিসরাপ্টিং দ্য ফ্লো
No, you know what? If you
Yes, sir.
were a teacher, then you would also understand probably. But I mean, uh, just consider the position condition of a teacher with online
Yes,
exam.
sir.
The assessment requires some little more difficult questions. Otherwise, I mean, it's an open book exam and you don't have
Yes, sir.
very good control over what the students are doing. So if you
Yes,
don't
sir.
use tricky questions at all, then
Yes, sir.
it is not a good judgment. And when you don't have a good judgment, then the good students are deprived. That's the problem. Okay,
Yes,
you have
sir.
to differentiate between good and bad performances. If you cannot do that, then the good performers are deprived. Okay. So later you can
Yes, sir.
scale as much as required, but
Yes, sir.
at the stage of assessment, you should have a method to differentiate. Okay, so in the case
Certainly,
of
sir.
face-to-face classes, it is much easier, but when it is made online, I mean, you know why I use open book exam in online exams? Because even if I go for closed book exam, there may be some people who will access the lecture notes or book. So I just thought that I would rather make it open book. Okay, so that if all the students are equally judged. Fairness is the most important thing for the assessment, and that's the challenge for a teacher, that I can maintain fairness. I mean, the good performance and bad performers are separated correctly. Okay, that is why we try our best to prevent cheating. Okay, and all that. Yeah.
But sir, I have some different perspective on this point.
Mhm.
Like before pandemic, we had
Right.
6 months to finish the course, and after pandemic, in these online classes is happening right now, we have also 6 months to finish. Like the timestamp didn't change before pandemic and after pandemic. So if a student wants to learn the things that, which might help him to answer trickier questions, he need to invest more time in those topics. Like before, in some courses, if the questions are from the surface level knowledge, so I have to invest few of my times there. But if the questions is from deeply understood concept, so I have to give more time. But
But we don't
before
have that
pandemic
time.
and after pandemic,
Yes,
the
sir.
time didn't change. The time is same for both the cases.
Yes,
So
sir.
it's
But
also
you
a
can-
bit of
There,
judgmental view in
yeah,
my opinion.
there are lots of
Yes, pros and cons to the entire thing, sir.
logical points in both sides. Okay,
Yes, sir.
like I mean, let me just give you one point. Now you don't have to memorize, and you don't have to write down descriptive. Okay, so like some theoretical derivation, you don't have to learn well and write down in the exam, or some long theoretical description. You don't have to in open book exam. You don't need that. Okay, so there you can save some time in memorizing, or some formula. You don't have to memorize. Even for problems, the formula you don't have to memorize. You already have them in hand. Okay, so this way you can save some time. More like you can concentrate on the concept, on the depth of understanding. You can put your effort more on in these aspects. Okay, So then you can probably be able to answer more tricky questions. On the other hand, I'm also saying that there has to be a way to differentiate among the students. Later we can scale. We can scale to fit in the expected curve. So it's I'm not saying it doesn't mean that students will be the losers. Okay, when there are more difficult questions. I mean, no teacher can maintain the same difficulty in all of his questions. It's not, the teachers are also human beings. So difficulty in every countries, in every universities, the teacher and I mean, when you'll go abroad, you'll find that the teachers usually scale, because in his own exams, he cannot always maintain the same level of difficulty. So when it is more difficult, he scales more. When it is less difficult, he scales less. That's how he maintains proper judgment in the grading. Okay. So that is the I mean, wider practice around the world. Okay, what else? Anything else?
No, sir. Thank you,
Okay.
sir. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for all of your participation.
Yes,
It
sir.
was nice to be with you.
Same, sir.
Okay, so
Okay, sir. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
bye. Alaikum assalam.
ভালো থাকেন স্যার, দোয়া করবেন আমাদের
হ্যাঁ,
জন্য স্যার, বেশি বেশি করে।
You guys also please pray for me.
Surely, sir.
Let us pray for each other.
Yes, sir.
Assalamu
Take
alaikum.
care, sir.
Alaikum
Yes,
assalam.
sir.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.